Hari Om Tat Sat. Welcome to Swami Jyotirmayananda Society, our journey to self-realization. Please subscribe our channel for the mystical meanings and to enjoy daily satsang. We are currently exploring the book Yoga Essays for Self-Improvement, authored by Swami Jyotirmayananda ji, narrated by myself, Swami Nikhilananda. In today's satsang, we are exploring the chapter of how to remove misunderstanding. As you know, that is the cause of much misery in this stressful world. Human life abounds with diverse misunderstanding. You are misunderstood because you belong to a particular race or faith. You are misunderstood because of your complexion, black or white. You are misunderstood by friends and dear relatives for trifling reasons. In turn, you misunderstand others and suffer the consequences in the form of regret, repentance, sorrow, and grief. Misunderstanding broods over the countries of the world like a dark cloud. International harmony is possible only when understanding is promoted among different nations. People begin to cooperate and evolve a happy coexistence. So it takes effort on everybody's part. The root of misunderstanding lie deep in the human heart. Until a higher level of education instills in the human heart the urge to unfold its latent spiritual faculties, it will remain impossible for man to overcome the manifold tentacles of the hideous demon of misunderstanding which affects him today. So, we should gain philosophical insight. There are many classical examples of misunderstanding. In the Ramayana, Bali and Sugriva were valiant brothers who ruled the vast empire of monkeys. They were profoundly bound to each other in brotherly love. One day, challenged by a demon, Bali took up a pursuit of his enemy, which eventually led into a dark cave in the mountains. He placed his brother Sugriva at the opening of the cave to wait for 40 days, telling him that if he did not emerge by then, Sugriva should consider him dead. Seeing a great pool of blood proceeding from the dark passage, Sugriva, having waited more than 40 days, thought that his brother had been killed. Afraid of the demon, he blocked the passage with a great rock, returned to the kingdom, and began to rule the place with his brother. Instead of his brother, he became the king. Naturally, he exercised his control over all that formerly belonged to his brother. Bali, however, was not killed. Finding the opening of the cave blocked after destroying the demon, he became incensed with his brother. He misunderstood his brother's intentions, just as Sugriva too had misunderstood the true development of things. When Bali saw Sugriva ruling in his place and exercising control over all that he had owned, he was furious and at once became a mortal enemy of his brother. The Ramayana goes on to show how simple acts as these grow to mountainous proportions and how at the same time divine will continues to see its plan unfold through misunderstandings that operate in the hearts of men. Since this is so, bitter misunderstanding is a human relationship, is not an accidental development. All these human relationships are complex and sometimes they become bitter, unfortunately. So, you have been brought to these conditions by the workings of your unconscious mind. Karma from the past has conditioned your circumstances. No doubt, you must exercise your present free will and use diligent methods, artistic dealings, and patient acts of goodness to combat all misunderstandings. But when your best efforts fail to overcome misunderstanding, you should not be discouraged. See a divine hand behind that development and endure it with a sense of austerity and surrender. In the fullness of time, you will discover a profound meaning behind the experiences of apparent bitterness and harmony. All human beings are expressions of the one supreme self. Just as the sun is reflected differently in different reservoirs of water, so the self is reflected differently in different minds. The reflected self is called the jiva. Jiva is the individual soul and is conditioned by a limited mind and backed up by a storehouse of the past, karmas, which are impressions of action. So, even though they are essentially linked to the same source, people develop disharmony among themselves. Ignorance, frustrations, psychological complexes, they bring about situations of misunderstandings at every step. So learn to analyze your mind, practice reflection and meditation. Most of your irritations you will find are not caused by anything outside but are reflections of your inner restlessness and frustration. This inner frustration is founded on a misunderstanding of your essential nature. Through a highly evolved mind, understand that you do not depend upon this world for your happiness and comfort. Rather, you exist as the reality behind the world. You are not confined to the realms of the mind and senses. You are the transcendental self. The light that is shining from within you is reflecting in your day to day activities. So, you are the very embodiment of peace and bliss. Imagine embodiment of peace and bliss, and yet we we pretend that we are so unhappy. This world is so painful, so miserable. We cry tears of sadness, all because of the obstruction of that light. When this misunderstanding deepens, you will cut down the roots of misunderstanding in all human relationships. So, then how to overcome misunderstanding? Affected by the causal disease, that is the causal body through which we are born, that is also a disease. Ignorance has to be removed. Ignorance, a person is unable to find fulfillment in his own essential reality because he doesn't have the light shining yet. When you are in dark, you can't see things until the light shows up. Therefore, he continues to seek the illusion of fulfillment in the objects of the world. This basic misunderstanding thus maintains the conditioned mind by constantly feeding its own creation of false impressions. The mind that has weakened its will is bound to maintain negative impressions both about oneself and others. Because you have weak willpower, you don't do the things that are necessary for your evolution. A weak will gives rise to false fears, negative imaginations, and narrow minded prejudices. But when the will is strengthened by the practice of integral yoga, day by day, one becomes accustomed to a life of sublime thoughts and feelings. There is no longer the space of the mind for the empty ghosts of misunderstandings. They run away because you now have a definite plan for your evolution. Do not combat misunderstanding by developing more misunderstanding. Do not misunderstand the person who is misunderstanding you. In exchange for misunderstanding directed towards you, you must extend your vision of understanding, your heart of love, and your willingness to be of true help even to those who are ever prone to misunderstand you. Misunderstanding can be nullified and cured by understanding alone. People prone to misunderstanding are patients in this great hospital of the world process. You too remain a patient until you gain the intuitional knowledge of the self. So, we are all patients in this large world hospital and we are healing at different pace in different ways. So, Wish don't therefore, just as you wish others to forget your acts of misunderstanding, you must also learn to transcend and forget similar acts of others. Develop an insight into those inner maladies of life which continue to affect the majority of human beings and learn the art of remedying them. Do not just disseminate the acts of misunderstanding directed towards you. Rather, try to analyze and understand the real defects within you which have been magnified by those who have misunderstood you. The world of misunderstanding is a necessary evil to aid the spiritual growth of every soul. Thorns are needed for the healthy development of the rose bush. Only then can there unfold the beauteous petals of the rose itself. In the same way, in a life sustained by constant tests and trials afforded by the critical judgment of others, there develops the bloom of spiritual vision which far surpasses all the expectations of the human mind. Sage Kabira says, those persons who criticize and vilify you, keep them near you, even in your very house, and they will purify your mind without the addition of water and soap. So they continue to rub your ego and purify you. Adapt and adjust in your practical life to avoid misunderstandings. But if others continue to grossly misunderstand you, in spite of your best efforts, you should learn to endure with resignation to the divine will. The clouds will disperse in a short time. Do not perform acts of violence, greed, or falsehood. These condition your mind in such a way that even during harmonious circumstances, there develops cause for gross misunderstanding. Cultivate a broad understanding and a generous heart. Do not become imprisoned by your own narrow minded prejudices. All religions basically teach the same truth. Therefore, do not hate others on the basis of their faith or religion. This is a big mistake that many people make, thinking they're superior. Live to serve the divine self in all beings. Become a servant of God. You should overcome hate by acts of love, greed by acts of generosity, and all forms of misunderstanding by increasing understanding of the divine nature of the self. Live to outgrow your senses, mind, intellect, and ego so that you may realize your essential nature, the non dual Atman. Live a life dedicated to the practice of integral yoga. Let the dark clouds of misunderstanding be dispersed from the firmament of your heart, and let there be a revelation of the cosmic life as shining as the sun and as refreshing as the moon. May God bless you. May you not have too many misunderstandings. May you become a source of soothing relief to others. This is Swami Nikhilananda. Hari Om Tat Sat. In tomorrow's satsang, we will pick an important topic: free yourself from the past, because so many people struggle with that concept. This is Swami Nikhilananda. Hari Om.